Hey guys, this is like my third recorded episode, but I decided to be brave and I invited a friend of mine, Kaden, to come in person to interview him about being an FSY counselor. So I actually already heard part of his story at an FSY devotional, and it was just so good. So I saw him in the hallway the other day and just jumped on the opportunity. So he's with us. He's here with us today. Kaden, do you want to introduce yourself?
I would absolutely love to. So like she said, my name's Kaden. I'm from Payson, Utah. It's a very exciting place. Been at SU. This is my junior year at SUU. I'm a communications major. Love that. I don't know how I got into that, but that's what I'm doing. And I'm getting a minor in marketing as well.
So what are you going to do with that?
That's a good question. I just got a job as a seminary teacher, so
you made it.
Yes,
you made the cut.
I'm very
I love
excited
it
for that. So hopefully that goes well. I don't know if I'll stick with it, but I know I'll do. It's like an internship for the
student
semester.
teaching.
Yeah, so I'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll stick with that. Originally, my kind of plan with communications was to, I do videography and photography, so something about helping social media run that.
That would be cool.
Stuff for some company, I don't know, something along those lines.
That's cool. I thought about doing a communications minor, and then I looked at all the things, and I'm like, I have to do social media stuff?
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah, I have to do a bunch of, news-centered stuff,
I see.
and that's not fun for me, but it's okay. The social media part, I think, is kind of fun, so I enjoy that.
Fair enough. So what's your favorite part? Is it the social media?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fun. I'm in a communication theory class, which is just how communication works and what kind of things work best, and it's just interesting how people communicate to each other.
So true.
I like learning about it and how to improve at talking and connecting with people better. I think it's really fun.
I think it's so interesting that there are different languages.
It's crazy.
What is that?
And cultures all across the world that certain things mean certain things to them and doesn't to us, but it's just crazy.
In the scriptures, how one word in Hebrew means something more meaningful.
It's so cool.
What is that?
Hebrew, lyrics and stuff in the scriptures. It's so cool.
Sometimes I think about different languages in heaven. Does that mean we'll be able to communicate with everyone, with no barrier?
I hope so.
I know that would be fun.
I've tried to learn Spanish and I can't do it. So.
Where'd you go on a mission? Did you go on a mission?
Yeah, I went to a mission. I was in Missouri, so I was actually called to the Arkansas Bentonville mission, but I spent my whole 2 years in Missouri in a place called Springfield, so it was a good time.
The Lord puts you where He needs you, I suppose.
I was not expecting to go there. It was the last place I thought.
Where did you want to go?
I would have loved to go. Honestly, I was cool with anywhere. I would have loved to go somewhere next to the ocean. I love being next to the ocean, but then I got stuck right smack dab in the middle of the United States where there's no water.
So way far than what you wanted.
Yes, but I loved it. It was good.
That's awesome. Okay, so to start off with FSY, what made you want to be an FSY counselor?
So I originally was not going to do it at first. I work at the aquatic center, and I was at work one day, and I was just scrolling through my feed on my phone, and I saw an ad for FSY, and I never went to EFY or anything as a kid, and so I was like, oh cool, I guess they're hiring for that, and then all of a sudden, very, very strong spiritual impression, which I had I've not had that strong of an impression for a while, but it was God was sign up for that. And I was like, I definitely don't want to do that. And he was like, no, you're doing it. And so I started filling it out right then. And I was like, what is going on? Yeah. And my mom even sent me a text with the link to the
my goodness
application, and she's like, hey, I feel like you should look at this. And I was like, I already signed up, but that's crazy. And
so the Lord was like, I really need Kaden to be an FSY counselor.
He doesn't listen to himself, he'll listen to his mom, so he had her do it too.
I love that. And the application process is quite a doozy.
There was a lot more than I thought.
There was so much stuff.
They'll just see if they want you. It was a lot of interviewing and
so many emails back and forth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it was the first year that they've done FSY, so they're trying to figure it out. And I was like, this is a nightmare.
Yeah, it kind of was, and it was so nerve-wracking for me at least because I didn't know if I was supposed to do it. And so I was like, is this an answer to a prayer or not? And so I was just waiting for it to be like, yeah, it was an answer, or no, this wasn't it. So anyway.
Oh, it was crazy.
So tell me your favorite part about FSY, and I already know what it is,
You've already heard the story.
But please tell the story. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, so I'll go a little bit more into detail because I didn't have the time to do it at the FSY devotional. But so his name's Jake, and so the week that I did it, so I did it for 9 weeks.
That's so long.
Oh my
goodness.
And I was sick every week, and it was hard, and I was like, oh my gosh. But this is week 8 that this happened. Oh my gosh. So I was like at the end of my rope. Like, I was exhausted.
You were just done.
And that was the worst group of kids I had by far. Like, they were just nightmares.
They just wouldn't stop. Oh my goodness.
They were so bad. Like, every single day, I don't know why, there was like second nature to them to just complain to me about how much they hated FSY. And I was like, guys, I'm trying so hard to make this fun for
I can only imagine.
And they didn't even like act like it was hurting my feelings at all. Like, they were just like, this sucks and I don't want to be here. And I was like, I wish I could make it better for you. But so we just went through the week, and oh my gosh, that group of boys was so hard to be around. And we got to Thursday, and like Thursday's like our big spiritual day, and I was like, all right, we're almost done this week. Like,
they're almost going home.
Like, I was like, I love them. Like, deep down, I love them. Like, on surface level, I'm kind of angry at them.
Yeah, no, totally understandable.
Like, they could go home, and like we could just move on, and it'll be fine.
Exactly.
Which was not probably the right attitude to have, but like after that long of a time, I was like, oh, I'm so tired. But we got to Thursday night, and we're having our what's the word I'm looking, testimony meeting. And so we're all packed in the Cedar City Institute, like no one's paying attention. You know, like the rolly chairs that they have in there?
Goodness,
I don't know why they had them in there, but like nobody's paying attention, and like
bumper cars, honestly.
Barely anyone's getting up to bear their testimony, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I just need today to be done. And like, we can have a good day tomorrow and send them off. And so we're sitting there, and Jake all of a sudden, like, one of the kids got up and said something. Jake just stand. Like, I looked at him, and he was kind of like fidgeting in his chair for a bit, and I was like, what is up with him? Like, I thought maybe he was going to get up and share.
Yeah.
But he just like stands straight up, walks back to the back of the room where I'm sitting, and he just goes, Kaden, I need to talk to you. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Guess we're going to go talk. So I go out in the hallway, and I'm like trying to find a third person to be around us.
So that there's
we walk over to the site office, and I like grab one of the ACs. I was like, hey, will you come I was like, don't be in our conversation, but like stand where you can see us. And so we're like,
the rule of 3.
Yeah. So I was like trying to figure this out as he's like starting to cry, and he's like shaking, and I was like, what is going on with this kid? And so he sits down, and I'd never seen someone that was like so distressed that they were like shaking and like couldn't handle it. And he was like, I have lost all my faith, and I can't, like, he's like, I don't know what to do. He's like, I feel, the way he described it to me was that he felt like he was being torn apart and squished together all at the same time, because he just was trying to figure out if there was a God, basically. And he had lost all faith that there was a God because he'd asked so many times, and essentially it came down to the fact that he claimed that he'd never felt the Spirit before, and then he was like, I don't think it's real because I've never felt it. And he's like, everyone else claims to have felt it, but I never have. And I was like, I don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
your heart's probably just breaking apart, and you're like, I have no idea what to do right now.
Yeah, and I was like, even as like I'd been a missionary, like I'd dealt with this before, but for some reason I just didn't have. I was like, whatever I'm going to say is not going to help him. And I remember the Spirit was just like, go find Brother Collister, and who's the institute director for that week. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. Like, I was like, I can follow that prompting.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what to say. I was
like, that's pretty clear. I think I can go find him.
Like, I can do that. That sounds good. I was like, Jake, sit here for a second. I am going to go get someone. I was like, I'm going to get Brother Collister because I feel like he can help you more than I can right now. I was like, I want to help you, but I don't feel like I have what you need. And he was like, okay. And he's like still shaking.
Yeah.
Like, I was like worried he was sick. Like, I was like, what is going on with this kid? And so I go grab Brother Collister. I was like, hey, I need your help because I don't know what to do. He's like, okay. So he comes out, and we sit and chat with him for a while, and he basically recounts all the same stuff to me and Brother Collister, and we chat for a while, and we just couldn't quite like we were teaching him principles and trying to help him understand that like the Spirit talks to you in different ways, and like, it might take time. And he was like, I have been praying and asking and reading my scriptures for 9 years, and I have never felt anything. And I was like, I was like, you don't want to tell him to just keep waiting, because
Right.
that's like impossible.
Because that's the worst. Yeah.
You spent your whole life searching for an answer and you haven't gotten anything yet. Like, that's gotta hurt. And for someone to just be like, oh, just keep doing it, like, that sucks.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, and so eventually Brother Collister was like, all right, well, let's give you a blessing and we'll see if we can, like, just try to help you out for tonight. And Jake was pretty convinced that he was going home the next day. Like, he was like, I'm going to call my parents and I'm going home.
So I actually have a question for you.
Yeah,
like, for me, when we had to give one of my youth a blessing, we had to give the permission from the parent and their bishop. How did that work? Did you guys not?
I think we probably should have.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I don't know.
Because you were telling the story and I was like, where did the permission part come in?
I think...
Maybe Brother Collister knew his family or something. I don't know. Maybe the Spirit was like, just go for it, okay?
And I don't know. But we gave him a blessing. Well, Brother Collister had me give him a blessing, and I was like, you're the one that's been, like, stake president and institute director. Like, I don't know if I should be the one doing this. And he was like, nope, you're going to do it. And I was like, okay. So I gave him a blessing, and I thought it was very spiritual. And, like, as soon as we finished the blessing, Jake turned around, and they're like... his eyes were dry, there was no tears, nothing, felt nothing, and he was like just staring at me, and I was like, okay, so I don't know if that worked, but we'll see where it goes for the rest of the night. So we took him back to his apartment, and so like all the other kids, like my poor Co had no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, she just like took all the kids home, and so I like go home with him and the institute director, and we get back there, send her to bed, and we like had our little powwow at night, and like all the boys went to bed, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And his friends like were aware of how he was feeling, and they wanted to help him too. So like we all said a prayer for him, because he just went right to bed, and we all prayed for him. And it was like the first time that week that like we'd seen any unity before between like anyone.
Yeah, that's one really cool thing.
Yeah.
Like when you pray over someone in your group, or you're supporting someone, that there's kind of that unity there.
Yeah.
That happened with me one week too.
Yeah, it was so nice. And so like that was really cool to see. Like I was like, okay, these guys really do want to help their friend. And so then I left, and I just like I had like such a weird feeling about it, because I was like, I wish that I could have given him the answer that he needed, but I was like, I just don't know how to get that to him. And I remember talking to my buddy, his name's Isaac. We were sitting outside, and like I was just talking to him about it, and I was like, I don't know how to help him, and I want him to get like an answer, but I didn't feel like I could ask for that answer to be given the next day. Like I was like, he's been asking for so long. Like, who am I to be like, all right, God, time to give him his answer. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, I don't feel like I'm faithful enough to ask for that. And my buddy Isaac, who's such a great guy, he just goes, yeah, you can. And I was like, what? And he's like, you can ask for that 100%. Like, why wouldn't God answer that? And I was like, that's a fair point. And I was like, all right, well, you know what? It can't hurt to try.
Yeah,
and so
true.
Me and him said a prayer, and we decided we were going to fast for him. And I was like, God, I have nothing to offer you other than just like to please help this kid, because I was like, he's distraught. Like he does not believe that you're there. He doesn't believe anything, and he wants to feel something. And I was like, I'm just asking you to please anything. Like
you're like, with all my heart, just please, like,
anything at all is okay with me. And so I like went into this with very little faith, which was really interesting, because earlier that week I'd been praying for God to kind of show, like, you know how you go through different phases of where you're like,
oh, for sure,
I know God's there, but I haven't really felt like He's there for a long time. So I remember praying earlier that week. I was like, God, I just like want to feel like you're around and like you're helping. And so this like all tied in with that, and I was like, this is crazy. Yeah. But so the next day comes, me and Isaac are fasting, and I was like, really just praying all day long, hoping that something would happen for him. And so I was like watching him like a hawk all day long. Yeah.
First of all, I have no idea how you survived fasting the last day of FSY.
I was dying, dude. I was so hungry.
Like, I just don't even know how. Like, this is a 24/7 job. Like, it is not one where it's not one for the meek.
Yeah, I think we skipped breakfast and lunch.
Oh my goodness.
But it was so funny, because every kid ever notices that you didn't get food, and they're like, why don't you have food? And you're like, I'm fasting. And I'm like, why? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you why. Like, and so
that's funny.
I had like 50 kids ask me, they're like, why are you eating the hot dogs? And I was like, leave me alone. And so we're praying for him, and like any break that I had that day, I just spent in the scriptures, and I was like just praying, and I was like, please, like anything to happen to this kid. I watched him all day, and he didn't seem like a could tell he was still distraught, but he was acting normal-ish, but like, I was like, nothing is happening to him that's going to help him.
Right.
So he decided that he would stay that day and he wasn't going to go home early. And I was like, well, that's good at least.
Yeah.
And
That's a miracle in and of itself.
Yeah, I was like, wow, at least he's staying another day. And so we got to the very end of the night. So after, like, I remember watching him through everything. Like, very end devotional, I'm like glancing at him. I was like, please start crying or something so I can know that you're at least
like,
feeling
anything.
something. I know, it's like, please. And a lot of the counselors kind of knew about it, and so they'd been praying for him, and his friends were praying for him too. And we get to the very end of the night, and we're sitting on like the outer quad by the library, and I remember that we like kind of said our end testimonies, and I was like, I refuse to go to bed until this kid feels something. Like, I was like, I'm going to the very last second, and God is going to do something. I was like, I'm sure of it at this point. Like, it has to happen. And so we're sitting there, and we kind of said our last goodbyes, and then I was like, no, we're not done yet. And it's like 9:29, and I was like, and I remember getting a thought in my head of, it was just a picture of the kids all kind of gathered around with their arms around each other, and we were singing Peace in Christ.
Such a good song.
It's such a good song. And I was like, and that makes me cry every time. So I was like, he has to feel the Spirit during
You're like, that's got to be a prompting. We've got to do this.
I was like, and I was following anything that God gave me.
Oh, absolutely.
So I was like, all right, everyone, huddle up. And I stuck my speaker in the middle of the circle, and they were like, we don't know the words. And I was like, too bad, sing along.
You're like, just listen then.
I was like, just listen, sing along if you want. And I was like, I just feel like we need to do this. And so we all start singing, and the song finishes, and we go to say a closing prayer, and I was just asked, I said, who wants to say our closing prayer? And Jakey shoots his hand straight up, and I was like, pray now.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Drop to the floor, let's go.
I was like, I don't even know who else raised their hand, but I was like, this is it. I was like, he finally has something. He wants to pray. And he says a prayer, and it was the most, it was the most anticlimactic prayer of my life. Like, he was just like,
thanks for FSY. Yeah.
Hope we drive home safe. Amen. And I was like, well, that was not what I was looking for. And so we all say amen. And I kind of stand up, and I'm like gathering my stuff. And all of a sudden, I just get tackled to the ground. And I was like,
I cannot even imagine.
And it threw me off so bad. I was like, what on earth just happened? And I see Jake, and he's just like, he's trembling again. But and like the Spirit all of a sudden was so strong. And I knew that something was happening. And it was like an Alma the Younger.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I was like, oh, he's feeling it.
You're like, finally.
He's about to fall to the ground. And so he just grabs me by my shoulders, and I grab him by his, and I was like, what? And he just tears in his eyes, and he just goes, I felt it.
Oh, that's amazing.
I've never felt the Spirit like that before. It was such a touching moment, and I remember I grabbed him. I've never hugged someone so tight in my life. We just hugged it out, and we just cried. And I started sobbing. Right. And I'm not super emotional of a guy, so I'm crying. And I remember I like took him again, and I was like, "That is the Spirit." Yeah. I was like, "Do not ever forget that God is telling you this right now." And he was like, "I know, finally, that's God was
amazing."
There. And I was like, what on earth? And my poor co had no idea what was going on.
She's like, what?
And she just saw me get tackled. She's like, what on earth? And so me and him are crying on the ground, and his friends run over, and he starts, and he just started telling everyone. Like, he was like,
that's incredible.
When, like, the man gets healed by Peter, and he starts jumping around. Yeah. That was what was going on.
That was incredible.
He literally started leaping around and telling, like, anybody that would look at him. He was like, God is real. Like,
oh, my goodness. I know. So not only is it a miracle for him, but every single person in your company got to experience that.
Everybody did. And all of a sudden, they're all crying. And another just fun little miracle that happened right after that was a different kid that had been, he was probably the roughest of them all. I looked at him, and he was crying.
Wow.
And I was like, why are you crying?
Wow.
And he comes and hugs me, and he's like, I needed this so badly. He was like, I know. He apologized for how mean he'd been. He was like, I'm sorry for how I've been this week, but it's been so hard the past few years, and I needed this so much. Wow. And I was like, what on earth is going on right now? Yeah. Like, I was like, and just the outpouring of the Spirit that happened right there. And then my favorite thing was that he saw Brother Collister across the way, and he was like, can I go tell him? And I was like, absolutely, you can go tell him. And he and I was watching this 14-year-old kid sprint across the quad and then tackle Brother Collister. Was hilarious. And then him and Brother Collister hugged it out, and they're crying. And I just never had seen such light fill someone so quickly. Like, he legit was running around just telling everyone. And I was like, man, if only we could all feel like that all the time,
so
like,
true.
the gospel would be spread so fast.
Oh, so true.
And we went home and we prayed together again, and we just couldn't stop saying thank you to the Lord. And I remember, like, the very end of the night, and I couldn't stop crying like, the whole night.
I mean, and understandably.
And I set the kids to bed, and I saw Isaac again, and he was like, "How are you?" And I couldn't even say anything.
Yeah.
I literally fell down. I started crying again. And he came over and hugged me, and I was like, "You would not believe." I was like, "Because you told me that God could work a miracle, He did." And I was like, and I will never ever forget that. And that lesson I learned that day was, God is a God of miracles, and He will do it.
Yeah, that's incredible. My grandma came to the devotional to hear me talk, and she said that your story touched her so deeply that, like, it was a reminder to her that she could ask for miracles. Because I think sometimes we have the same thoughts that you have, like, oh, I'm not faithful enough, or I'm not worthy, or, like, who am I to ask for a miracle? And then, you know, like, hopefully we have a friend like Isaac that's like, why not?
Yeah, why not, right?
Why not?
Of course you can.
Yeah, why not?
And oh man, every time I ever feel like that like I did then, I just remember, and I'm like, wow, like, God can work a miracle anytime, anywhere, through anyone. And, like, the fact that it took 9 years for him, like, that's up to God. Yeah. But the principle is that God will work a miracle. We don't know when, but He will 100%.
Absolutely.
Because that's in His nature. He wants to.
That's
who
He
bless
is.
His kids.
Yeah.
And it was just an amazing experience.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously that was an amazing experience, but how, through this experience and through everything else at FSY, I mean, 9 weeks is a long time, how did your relationship with the Savior grow and change?
Oh, man, in so many ways. I went into, because when I came back from a mission, I wasn't like doing anything bad. I just kind of slipped off on all the habits.
Complacency.
I wasn't reading my scriptures. I went to church, but I wasn't, like, involved. And it had been, like, it was 2 years, like, this summer. And when I got that prompting to sign up for FSY, I was like, whoa, I am not prepped for that at all. And, like, I just wasn't living my life in a way that the Spirit could be super present. And so over the summer, I was then all of a sudden just surrounded by trying to help people, trying to bring the Spirit, and it was that constant everyday effort that it all of a sudden clicked in my mind that I was like, oh, this is something I have to do daily, otherwise I'll lose it. Like, I won't have this with me. And so my relationship with the Savior grew tenfold because I realized all these things that I had learned on a mission that I loved, that I was like, oh, this is the best thing ever. That I was like, oh, I have to continue this, otherwise I will. I didn't realize how far away I'd strayed until I signed up for this, and I was like, oh, wow, I need to stay on this every day.
Wow, that's incredible. I love it. I mean, I can agree more. Like, I think the process of FSY is just as much for the counselors as it is for the youth and the teachers and probably the session directors and everyone in between. So anyway,
I love it.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I totally teared up again. So good. It was just so good. I love the reminder that God is a God of miracles because, you know, a lot of people believe that God doesn't talk to us to this day, and He does. Yeah. And so I just love it. Any parting wisdom for anyone? Anything you'd like to say?
If you feel like you're getting a prompting to sign up, do not hesitate. It will bless your life in ways you can't even comprehend.
Incredible. I love it. Thank you so much, Kaden.
Absolutely.
And